You ever watch someone destroy your property in broad daylight every single morning like it was part of their daily routine? That was my life for 3 miserable weeks. And the worst part, the person doing it wasn't some random stranger. It was my new neighbor, a woman named Karen, who had decided on day one that I was her personal enemy. The first time I saw her smash my mailbox, I froze. It wasn't a gentle bump either. She walked past, lifted her giant purse, and swung it like a wrecking ball. Bang! The metal door rattled, and she smirked as if she'd just scored a point in a game only she was playing. Then she strutted away without a word. The next day, same thing. Purse up, bang, scratch across the paint. By the end of the week, my once pristine mailbox was covered in dents and barely stayed closed. She never missed a single morning. Why? Because I hadn't bowed to her. Karen wanted every neighbor to recognize her as the self-appointed ruler of the block, and me? I had ignored her friendly suggestions about lawn height, parking placement, and trash can positioning. That was enough to put a target on my back. When I finally confronted her, she gave me the most condescending grin. "Maybe your mailbox shouldn't be in the way," she said. The mailbox was perfectly positioned, same as everyone else's. But logic didn't matter to Karen. Control did. Neighbors told me stories in hushed tones. Karen yelling at them for painting their doors the wrong shade. Karen calling inspectors over invisible violations. Karen leaving nasty letters stuffed under doormats. But no one fought back. They were scared of her tantrums. Well, I wasn't. Replacing the mailbox? Pointless. Reporting her? That would take forever, and she'd deny everything. No. If Karen wanted a game, I'd play. But I wasn't going to lose. I'd spent enough mornings drinking coffee to the sound of her smug little smashes. So, one night, I pulled out my toolbox, some gear I'd been saving for a rainy day, and a clever idea that made me grin ear to ear. If Karen wanted to keep attacking my mailbox every morning, then my mailbox was going to start fighting back. And trust me, nothing in her world of control could have prepared her for the soaking, shocking surprise I had in store. That night, I worked in the dark, crouched beside my battered mailbox with a flashlight taped to my shoulder. Every dent and scratch Karen had left only fueled my determination. I wasn't just fixing the box, I was upgrading it into a trap. The idea was simple but effective. If Karen wanted to smash it with her purse every morning, she was going to walk straight into a surprise she wouldn't forget. I rigged a pressurized water system inside the mailbox, carefully hidden behind the warped metal door. All it needed was the slightest jolt, and it would blast upward with enough force to drench anyone standing close. By the time I finished, my mailbox looked perfectly ordinary from the outside. Just another black postbox like the rest on the street, but inside, it was locked and loaded. The next morning, I brewed my coffee extra early and sat by the window like always. Right on schedule, Karen strutted down the sidewalk, purse swinging at her side. She didn't even glance around, she was too confident in her routine. When she raised the purse and slammed it against the mailbox, I braced myself. Whoosh! The water shot straight up, blasting out through the crack in the bent door and spraying her full in the face. Her hair flattened instantly, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. She stumbled back, gasping like she'd been hit by a fire hose. I nearly spat out my coffee. It was glorious. Karen shrieked so loud that curtains up and down the street twitched as sleepy neighbors peeked out. She stomped around in circles, dripping wet, trying to figure out what had just happened. And then, oh, the best part, she turned back to glare at my house. She knew. But for once, she didn't march up to my door. She didn't scream accusations across the lawn. She just stormed off, heels squishing on the pavement, soaked to the bone and fuming. I thought that might be the end of it. Maybe humiliation would finally be enough to stop her. But I underestimated Karen. People like her don't back down. When they lose, they doubled down. The very next day, she returned, armed with a towel draped over her shoulder and a smug grin. She thought she could outsmart me, dodge the water, and reclaim her little routine of destruction. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't finished. The water spray was just round one. My mailbox had more tricks waiting, tricks she wouldn't see coming until it was far too late. Karen came back the next morning like she owned the place. I watched from behind the curtains, coffee in hand, as she strutted down the sidewalk with that smug grin plastered on her face. This time, she was ready. Towel in hand, hair tied back, determination in every step. She thought she'd figured me out. When she swung her purse, she jumped back instantly, expecting the water spray. The trap triggered, shooting another blast skyward, but she danced back just in time. The stream barely missed her shoes. She laughed, actually laughed, and shouted loud enough for half the block to hear, "Nice try." I'll admit, she looked victorious. But that's when phase 2 kicked in. The jolt from her purse didn't just activate the water system anymore. I'd wired a small sound device inside, timed perfectly to play after the splash. A piercing siren erupted, blaring like a car alarm. The whole street echoed with the noise, and Karen jumped a foot in the air. Neighbors started poking their heads out, some opening doors to see what the racket was. Karen, still clutching her towel, was now the center of unwanted attention. Her face flushed red as she fumbled, trying to stop the noise. She yanked at the mailbox, kicked it, even covered her ears, but the siren only got louder. Finally, she gave up and bolted down the street, muttering curses under her breath. The sight of her running away while my mailbox screamed at her was the highlight of my week. But again, I knew it wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to slink off in defeat. Later that afternoon, I saw her pacing her driveway, phone in hand, no doubt calling every department she could think of, city code enforcement, the HOA, maybe even the police. Sure enough, 2 days later, a city inspector showed up. Clipboard in hand, he gave my mailbox a once-over. Karen stood across the street, arms crossed, smirking like she'd already won. But here's the thing, I hadn't broken a single law. The inspector tested the box, saw that it was still functional, and noted that there was no violation of municipal code. He even chuckled at the dents and scratches, saying it looked like it had been through a war. Karen's face soured instantly when he packed up and left without issuing so much as a warning. That was the moment I realized something. Karen wasn't just angry, she was obsessed. My mailbox wasn't just a box to her anymore, it was a battlefield, and she was losing ground fast. So, I decided to end this once and for all. If Karen wanted war, then war she would get. By now, my mailbox wasn't just a battered box on a post. It was a symbol, and I intended to defend it with every trick I had. That night, I set up the final stage of my plan. The water spray and siren had done their job, but Karen was stubborn. She needed one last lesson, something that would leave her too embarrassed to ever try again. So, I added a third system, simple, harmless, but humiliating. I coated the inside of the mailbox flap with powdered chalk dye, the kind used for construction marking. Invisible at night, but the moment she touched it, it would explode into a bright cloud of neon blue. The next morning, I barely breathed as I watched her march toward the box. She wasn't even sneaky about it anymore, she wanted me to see. Purse raised, towel ready, chin high. She was about to deliver her daily blow when a plume of neon blue dust erupted, covering her face, her hair, and her pristine white blouse in a cartoonish explosion of color. She staggered back, coughing, staring at her arms in disbelief. From head to toe, she looked like she'd fallen into a paint bucket. And then the water system went off. And then the siren blared. Neighbors poured out of their houses, unable to hold in their laughter. Phones came out, cameras clicked, and within seconds, Karen was standing in the middle of the street, soaked, glowing blue, and shrieking like a banshee while the siren wailed on behind her. I had never seen her look so powerless. For the first time, she wasn't in control. She was humiliated, and everyone witnessed it. She stormed off, leaving wet blue footprints all the way to her driveway. And that was it. The next morning, no purse, no stomping, no smug grin, just silence. A week passed, and my mailbox remained untouched. Neighbors who had once whispered nervously about her began greeting me with knowing smiles, some even thanking me quietly for standing up to her. Apparently, I'd done what no one else had dared, put Karen in her place. As for Karen, she avoided me entirely. She wouldn't even make eye contact when our paths crossed. Her reign of intimidation had ended the moment my mailbox fought back. Every time I walk past that dented, battle-worn mailbox now, I can't help but smile. It's not just where I get my mail anymore. It's a monument, a reminder that sometimes the best revenge doesn't come from shouting or fighting back directly. Sometimes it comes from letting the problem soak itself. If you enjoyed watching Karen finally get what she deserved, make sure to smash that like button, drop a comment telling me what you would have done, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild HOA and Karen stories. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next one.